Hello, my name is Charles Stanford. I'm the Processing Archivist in charge of the Rio Grande Historical Collections, or RGHC for short, in the New Mexico State University Library Archives and Special Collections Department. What a mouthful. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Elephant Butte Irrigation District and its records, specifically its non-current records which we hold here in the RGHC. I'll start off with a brief historical introduction about the building of the Elephant Butte Dam and Reservoir and the formation of the Irrigation District to take the place of the old Water Users Association. From there I'll move on to a discussion of the records themselves, their scope, and their importance. Second, I'll use this particular collection of records as an example to give a view of how historical records in general are arranged and described, how they go from being a large mass of old boxes in a state of neglect to becoming a manuscript collection and a research repository. The Elephant Butte Water Users Association was formed in 1906 to ensure an adequate supply of irrigation water to farmers in the Mesilla Valley. This came about after the United States Reclamation Service, now the Bureau of Reclamation, confirmed plans for the Rio Grande project, which included the building of a dam at Elephant Butte. Varying plans for a large reservoir had been proposed and debated since 1888, with proposed sites including Elephant Butte, to be built by an English company, and at El Paso. But it was the passing of the Reclamation Act of 1902 which really got things started. Delegates from New Mexico, Texas, and Mexico drew up an agreement for sharing the rights to the river water, including the annual delivery of 60,000 acre-feet of water to Ciudad Juarez from the proposed reservoir. The Elephant Butte Dam was finished in 1916, and the Elephant Butte Irrigation District was organized 2 years later. It replaced the old Water Users Association and took on the additional responsibility of managing the repayment of the dam construction costs to the federal government. Irrigation districts were authorized in New Mexico by a law passed in 1909. As a quasi-municipality, the Elephant Butte Irrigation District, or EBID, was given the authority to collect taxes to pay the construction debt. The completion of the dam may have been an end to decades of competing plans for the river, but it was only the beginning of a new history of water management in this area. Over the years, the Rio Grande project expanded to include a vast network of irrigation, drainage, and flood control systems, including not only the Elephant Butte Dam, but additional dams at Leesburg, Mesilla, Caballo, and Percha. The history of the district encompasses years of drought and of plenty, of changing laws, changing jurisdictions, developing technologies, battles with gophers, and legal battles. In 1939, the Rio Grande Compact created an alliance between EBID and the El Paso Water Improvement District, placing them in conflict with interests of the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District in Albuquerque. In 1971, EBID finally paid off the construction debt, and in 1978, it finally took over the management of ditches and canals within the district from the Bureau of Reclamation. And in 1979, a dispute began with the El Paso district over EBID's use of groundwater to supplement the water from the reservoir. This was finally resolved in 2008 by the governing boards of both districts. The Elephant Butte Irrigation District records currently in the RGHC span the years from 1906 to about 1970. They document the scheduling and delivery of irrigation water, the construction and maintenance of dams and ditches for irrigation and flood control, the management of finances related to the responsibilities of the district, and the district's interaction with government agencies and water users in this and other areas. With irrigation so fundamental to the economy here, and with our mission as a historical repository and as part of the land-grant university, there has been a conscious desire to provide the sources for the study of water management since the RGHC was first established. There are many aspects of this documented in our holdings which are of use to different people. By far the most dramatic documents we have are the photographs of the Elephant Butte Dam and Reservoir, the irrigation and flood control systems that they serve, and scenes of flood and drought through the years. We even made a calendar out of some of these. Many of these come from local individuals, others from the Bureau of Reclamation, and others from a large collection of hydrology reports by Herbert W. Yo, who served as the state engineer and in the Soil Conservation Service. In these capacities, Yo worked closely with EBID, with the Bureau of Reclamation and other water authorities, producing images that strike the eye, even if the viewer knows nothing about the details of hydrology, water rights, ditch maintenance, or anything else. The importance of these photographs should not be underestimated in helping to steer people's awareness to the necessity of managing water for life and civilization along the Rio Grande, and to inspire gratitude for the achievements of engineering that make our current economy possible. Therefore, items like photographs serve as a valuable tool for our mission to educate the public and invite interest in further learning, a mission we share with our colleagues at the Farm and Ranch Heritage Museum. Recently, in fact, some of our images and maps were used in an art installation by renowned artist Joyce Cutler Shaw. Currently, we have photographs available online from Herbert Yeo and from many other sources showing scenes of the dam, the reservoir, the river, canals, floods, and so on. There are many more photographs that we have from EBID which are still not online. When they are finally made available over the web, we hope that they will increase a public appreciation of the history behind the building of the reservoir and the important work the district does. This work that the district does is not as exciting as detonating dynamite, and not always as endearingly goofy as grabbing gophers. It does not produce many dramatic photographs in its day-to-day work, but it has built the foundation that supports the economy of this region. The operations of the district have been closely tied with the changing face of agriculture in the Mesilla Valley, from cotton beginning in the 1920s to the expansion of the pecan business during the past 30 years or so. These historic images of agriculture in the Mesilla Valley are evidence of the vital, behind-the-scenes work of the irrigation district. EBID's history is intertwined with the lives of pioneer settlers of the Mesilla Valley, such as Thomas Casad, the subject of a biography in progress by New Mexico State historian Rick Hendricks. Rick Hendricks is a former NMSU library employee and assisted with the early stages of our current work on the EBID records. The generations that have lived and farmed here since the late 19th century have all had their lives shaped by the workings of the irrigation district and its predecessors. Water right adjudication is a long and painstaking process which requires documentation of land ownership and water use because of New Mexico's prior appropriation water laws. The records of the district serve to establish and maintain such rights. So it is partly for the benefit of anyone who uses irrigation water in the Mesilla Valley that we keep these records, in addition to their more obvious use for research in history and other disciplines. Now, one thing that is very important to understand for anybody who is even remotely interested in history is that just because something important happens doesn't mean that there are necessarily records of it that get preserved for future use. For the past 50 years or so, archivists have been trying harder to be more active in finding and preserving primary source documents which give information about and evidence of a wider range of economic and social activities. The RGHC is one of the repositories that was founded for just this purpose. The RGHC seeks to preserve a useful sample of many different sets of records. Its collection policy states, "The purpose of the Rio Grande Historical Collections is to acquire, preserve, and make available for research records of organizations, personal papers, and other unpublished materials which document the cultural heritage and history of New Mexico and the Southwestern experience." I need another drink. This includes not only the physical care and preservation, but also the arrangement and description. Right now our main tool for this is the Rocky Mountain Online Archive, which offers finding aids for many of our historical manuscript collections and collections at other repositories throughout New Mexico, Colorado, and Wyoming. For every one of these described collections, there are several bodies of records or personal papers still sitting on the shelves of a repository, unorganized, unknown, not to mention those sitting in attics or closets, in storage sheds, exposed to the elements, or lost forever. This is what we call our processing backlog. Every archives or historical collecting repository has one. These are all the records we haven't arranged or described yet. Making our way through this is a slow process, so we often look for outside funding to help with specific projects. These can involve processing records that are already in our custody, or more proactive enterprises where archivists actively collect records they judge important enough to preserve and make accessible for research. Such was the case with the EBID records, and here follows the story of their transformation into a research collection.